I realized after recording this thing entirely one time already that I could have done a better job of explaining it. So here we go, part two of controlling, giving up, and taking space. Now, this was a game that I played with some friends of mine and some other friends of theirs. We ended up being in a six stack. And in a six stack, you go up against either other six stacks or groups of four and two as well. So these teams are going to be a lot more coordinated, right? They should be a lot more coordinated and communicating with each other. Um, and in this sort of because of the fact there's a lot more coordination, especially between us, there's a lot more understanding of like sort of like going in and coming back out and that flow of the fight. It's not as simple as just like go in, get kills. Like a lot of people think like, oh, I got a bunch of kills, so we must be doing a lot. But once again, if you've seen my videos, you know that like getting kills is not the end all be all. The point of the game is taking objectives, and you take objectives by getting kills, and you get kills by taking space, and you get secure space through the use of tanks and the pushing people into position. So here's a game where we just had really good rotations about us, and we kept and our ults and timings were really well done, and just much better than the enemy teams, which allowed us to take space. Now, mind you, this is a GM3, GM2 game for the most part, and these are all players who should probably have a better understanding of this, but a lot of people kind of get by off of the mechanics alone and forget the sort of fundamentals of taking those objectives. And by the way, when I say, getting kills to secure objectives, you don't even necessarily need to get kills. The threat of death is enough to either get an objective or hold one. You can keep people at bay or push people back and secure an objective strictly through the threat of death alone. And many people will usually back up, and that in that case, you're still technically doing your job. You don't have to secure the kill. You can still apply pressure in ways that can split teams apart or can make them feel uneasy and back up. So here's a game from my perspective. We'll also do a top down at the end. So immediately, I go up. This Hanzo is staring at our spawn door, and he is now holding this high ground. I don't kill him, but he backs out. That backing out is me then taking this space. I have more health. I have more resources. He gives up this space in order to survive. I am now, because I'm at the back and I'm starting to pressure the cloak, she immediately drops her resource early, so now she doesn't have that later. I go in and I force her to drop that. Hawkeye sees me, jumps up, does damage to me, and forces me back. And now that's me, after taking space, now having to give it back up. But you see also how I retreat back to my team. I don't blame my healers for my positioning. I go to a place where my healers are. I stand behind cover. I stand still. I get healed. And then I go back out to try and take that space again. And you see how, oh, by the way, this was a bad rotation. I went up when like my magic was already about to go in. Because of that downtime, we didn't engage at the same time. It's my fault. So here I am just peppering the backside. I am doing this sort of pincer attack on the enemy team, which makes them feel uneasy. And even though they don't necessarily see me or know where I am, they're feeling very not sure about their current positioning. So they start to back up and give up space. So here I time my engages better with my magic, and I start attacking at the same time as my magic. And as I'm on that backside applying damage, I get take a little bit of damage, I heal up, I see the res station, I take a detour and I take care of that. But you see how now I'm going back up and I'm taking the high ground space away from them. I'm saying, no, this area is ours. And I'm poking from high. And we're just pushing them back. We're not pushing them back through kills. Nobody's died yet. I mean, we lost one character early, but nobody's died overall. But nobody's died on the enemy team. But we're still pushing them back because of the fact that the threat of death is enough alone for them to give up space. And here, magic engages and I engage at the same time. We end up securing a kill for it, and now we collapse on them. And now it's just clean up from here. You give up space when you're afraid you're about to die. And it's okay to give up space temporarily when you think you're going to die, if you can re-engage again later. What's bad is when you die and then it turns into a 6v5 and your team is then forced to try and make up for that loss. It's okay to give up space 6v6 with low health and try and retake it, because coming back from spawn is a very long trek. And here I'm standing behind payload because I'm not engaging because I don't need to do anything yet because the payload is still moving. As long as the payload is still moving, I'm not really too much of a rush to try and get into enemy territory. But now that we start to contest this space, I'm going to try and find that pincer attack again as the flanker. And you see how like I'm poking at the person who's at the very back, who's not being paid attention to. I force her jumps, and now she's invis. But now there's a new person at the very back, Rocket, who was the last person to respawn, or the last person to die is the last person to spawn. And I know he's used most of his mobility moves to come back out quickly. So I solo ult him to keep him from getting the res up. I cancel it immediately to get more ult charge. I immediately regroup and join back with my team as we just clean up the rest of them from here. But you see how the entire time I've been rotating around. I've been going up and over. I'm going through the sides. I'm taking off angles and trying to control that space. But also at the same time, when I get under threat of death, I back up and I give up that space. But here's me preparing, by the way, for the next attack we're going to do. I preemptively walk to an offensive angle and I stand still as much as possible to avoid them hearing my footsteps. And I only move when I think I need to readjust myself. But now, because of the fact that I'm in this really nice angle, as the cart and payload is pushing forward, I want to try and get behind them and create that pincer attack one more time to control that space. Right? Magneto then backs up, which is bad on his part because he is their only tank. So he gave up a bunch of space to deal with me, which somebody should be dealing with me for sure, but he should not be. Because of the fact that he's not there to help his team, he's not there to block against like our strange ult and everything, they lost a bunch of space and a bunch of their teammates got hit with an ult. So here's me pressuring the rocket. I take out the res station, make sure nobody can come back. And here's me applying pressure and getting out. I didn't kill anybody, but I am helping control that space by making sure that none of them feel comfortable at any point in time. Here's a good example where Rocket had ulted in order to try and fight back, but he ulted too early. At this point, we can give up that space and let them have that area, that entire area in which Rocket's ult can see and possibly affect anyone that could kill us. We're going to let them have all of this space up in here, right? And I tell my team, hey, get back, get back, get back. We don't even need to be around that corner because the payload is still pushing. Look how far back it is. Rocket should have held that ult until the payload got closer up front, in which then we wanted to actually contest for that space. But right here, we don't want to contest for that space. So we just sit safely on the payload, get around the corner, save our resources, and then when it runs out, now we re-engage. But you see how the payload never actually stopped moving? We didn't lose anything for that ultimate. Nobody died, and the payload never stopped moving. That was a super bad mistake on their part and super beneficial for us. So here I am now just applying pressure. You see how I'm rotating again with the team? I'm rotating with the payload. I'm rotating around the enemy. And I'm applying as much pressure as possible. Nothing's dying, but just through the threat alone, they're starting to back up more because they're taking too much damage. The threat of an ult has pushed me back, but here, because of the fact that I know that like they were running triple support, are they still running triple support? Yes. They're running triple support. I want to go to the back and I want to get the rocket who has ultimately the res station. It's usually who I'm focusing first. But luckily our Magneto just absolutely pops off, so I don't even need to really do much of anything. So here we are now. The payload's just still moving, right? All we've done so far, for the most part, is had a few team fights, maybe. I think 3 in total. And that's not that many considering how far it's pushed, but it's all because of the fact that through the use of like us rotating, timing our engages together, and controlling that space purely through threat alone, we are pushing them back farther. And here, same thing. My team is over here. I'm going to a different angle to try and create pressure from a different side. It is much easier to shoot at enemies who aren't shooting back at you, especially if they're going back. If they're looking at enemies up ahead like this way, they'll typically be strafing left and right, not forward and backwards. So when they're strafing left and right, they're going to be going left and right into me. And you see how every single time I reload, I'm backing up and I'm reloading behind cover. And I'm coming back out. I'm poking. I'm poking. I don't know which of these which. They use the lamp. And because they use the lamp, I'm trying to engage on the people who are not covered by that. I'm trying to use more resources. Look, and there's the bubble. And I immediately ult the backline, which ultimately, typically ulting a massive group of people is not great on Psylocke, but because they're so grouped up and because my team is all there and because we've taken so much momentum away from them, this is an extremely powerful play to just be like, okay, everyone engage all at once. And you see how a lot of them were still alive by the time that we capped the point. And the reason why they weren't on the point is because of the fact that just purely through the threat of dying alone, they knew they couldn't stay out there. Magneto didn't have his bubble. There was nothing he could have done to stay on the point. Anyone else would have just gotten blown up immediately. It didn't matter. The game is about taking objectives, and objectives are taken through those kills, but you don't have to always get those kills. You can do it strictly through just making your presence known. So here, I stand perfectly still up until the point they start to like get distracted and they're pushed up. Because if you start walking around early, they hear your footsteps, so avoid that. And now I just start applying pressure. They still have the Hawkeye. They have the Namor to deal with me now. And look how I'm just constantly poking, applying pressure. I'm rotating and changing my position around so that way Hawkeye always has to keep guessing where I am. And look how my team is sort of giving up space here, right? Like they're receiving a lot of pressure because I am not providing perhaps enough from the back line here. And I just continue to poke, but my team backs up a little bit to give up some of that space temporarily. And here I am just trying to figure out who I can get a pick on. I see Namor out of position. I make a mistake. I don't get the kill. I'm low on health. I regroup with my team. But you see how the payload, once again for us, did the same thing. It backed all the way to this corner without having any sort of real massive team fight or team wipe. But it's just because of the fact that we lost health and we had to back up. But as the payload moves up and my team rotates, I rotate with my team. And now I'm going to try and take another off angle near my team. Somewhere up close where I can be more threatening. Strange gets a good set of kills. And here's an interesting play. They ulted on point. Invisible Woman can get there through the use of her double jump, and she can get there much, much quicker than Namor can. Namor is all the way at the back. He has no mobility moves, and he just used the squid, right? I can't kill the Invisible Woman in that cloak ult. But what I can do is I can attack the Namor. I can kill the squid, and now look, because he's just hopping around back and forth, that's purely wasted movement. He's not going to go anywhere. I'm keeping him back and farther away just by the threat of me existing alone, that he's not able to do much. But now that I see the cloak ult on the enemy team is run out and ours has ulted, instead of ego dueling the Namor, I'm going to jump down, especially because I'm pretty sure he still has his bubble. I'm going to jump down, get health, rejoin my team, and collapse on the targets that are there, right? But Namor is much slower to be able to help his team because of how much farther back he is. And how much farther back he is was dictated by me controlling that high ground space and that space and splitting them up from the get-go. And then once I collapse on them, then we get a free execute. Oh, and this is when I hear, oh, Doctor Strange above, Doctor Strange low right above. And I dash up, and it's an easy kill. Once again, just the same as my target priority video, who you target is not necessarily always like a list of like, oh, support DPS tank. Who you target is the person who's out of position, who's made a mistake, who can be killed. It's not always, ignore the tank, because right there, you don't ignore the tank. Whoever is out of position is the one that you're attacking. There, I take damage, and the moment that I take damage, I immediately use one of my abilities to dash to safety and give up space in order to receive healing so I can try and take it back in a second. And once again, you see how I'm standing still behind cover? I get healed up. Killing the squids. I'm near my team. I'm just applying pressure. I dash up, and look, once again, I am now controlling this high ground space. After I get healed back up, I go back up, I play offensive, I try to take a new angle. I am once again trying to control this space. I take damage, I cloak, I get out, I get call for healing, I get it. And here, I am holding this high ground space, I'm applying pressure. I got the quick, easy pick on the cloak. And now, because of the fact that they are split up, like me applying pressure and being up there means that they can't ignore me. But uh, but also at the same time, like I'm in a good position where I can back up to safety and not be shot at, and I can move forward and help split their team like I have been doing. And right here, he wants to get in there, and he's just not able to get in there fast enough. And here I'm just waiting, right? I know they're down two, but look how I'm pushing them back, right? Look at the space that I'm creating. I am not killing these people, but I am threatening them with death. They know that I'm there. They probably are aware that I have an ult coming up, and Doctor Strange ults, and the enemy Doctor Strange ults. But because of the fact that now me being up here and helping split them apart, they don't like the tank doesn't understand that his entire team has backed up. So now, once I've pushed them back far enough, I re-engage with my team and I collapse on the tank who's now out of position. And it becomes a free and easy pick. And here now, since it's only squishies, I see a good chance to ult, and Invisible Woman gets a really good pushback. I am learning that I cannot do that with an Invisible Woman, and that is a really bad idea. It was a wasted ult on my part. But you can see how, even though none of them died, the ult alone is enough to make them back up, right? If it would have been a kill, it would have been even better because then it would have forced them to wait to regroup to push out. But nonetheless, you see how the threat of death alone pushes people away from those positions. And that threat of death is kind of like herding enemies into a trap, right? So even when you're attacking people, it doesn't matter. You could be a support and you could be attacking people, and the threat alone you could make enough to make them not want to be there, right? So here I am applying damage from up top. I'm hitting group because of the fact that in my mind he's the one I can do the most damage to. And with the Squirrel Girl out and everyone distracted, it makes it easy cleanup still on the tank, especially group because he doesn't have a shield. Quickly execute on the tank, and after I execute on Doctor Strange, there are a lot of DPS and other characters right next to me. I dash away and I get the health because of the fact that I don't really want to take a risk of getting shot by Hawkeye. And you see how, like, especially against snipers, I am rotating a lot and changing my position because with snipers, if you peek them and they know that you're there, if you peek them one, two, three, four times, eventually you're going to get shot in the head. You try to not peek them so many times from the same location. Try to rotate around and play the mind game of being like, okay, I'm going to shoot from here. And then when you know I'm here, I'm going to move and I'm going to rotate someplace else, right? So here, now that he's looking at me, I'm out. He knows I'm up there. He shoots a shot. He misses. I'm shooting group because he's the closest thing next to me. There's the squids. Now that those are done, look, I was going to engage in the backside. He jumped up, hit a good shot. And the moment I took too much damage, if I take another hit, I'm basically dead. So I cloak, I get out, I get healed up, and I go back in. Once I hear my Doctor Strange ult, I engage super hard and just dash in, which is normally pretty dangerous. But once again, when you hear your team ult, follow up on it. See how I'm not attacking? I'm letting my team finish them off. Letting that stagger play out as long as possible. Our Doctor Strange gets silly here. Also, I don't know what I did there. I cloaked when I didn't need to. It was an accident, and then I tried to dash up and I fell to the bottom. That was just a pure mistake. And so was the Doctor Strange portal. Here, look how I'm attacking the backside. I probably should have gotten closer there, honestly, how I look at it. And I see that we lose Doctor Strange, and then we lose Squirrel Girl. So now, as I'm trying to apply pressure to the tanks in order to help get them off of my team so they can get out, I understand that we need to give up that space. And I'm telling them, just leave, reset. All we got to do is win one fight. Don't stay any longer than you have to. Give up that space for free, right? So I'm applying pressure so that way they won't be bothered. And I dash and get out once they sort of turn on me. Also, by the way, I am shooting from this position specifically because of the fact that I can apply pressure to the tanks, shooting them in the back safely, where they will not be able to really, deal with me without giving up the pressure they're applying on my team. But also, Hanzo and their supports and other DPS are to my left, and right there is a direct wall. They cannot see me or shoot me from this location. Every single time I'm playing and I'm shooting, I'm also asking myself, where's my cover and who can see me from this location? I want to try and shoot at one person specifically, and I don't want others to be able to have access or LOS to see me. Because if they do, they're going to do what you've seen me be doing all game, which is trying to collapse on them from different angles and hit them from sides that they're not expecting, right? But here, I know that I can shoot safely and apply this pressure without just being bursted down. When I dash and I get out, I'm applying pressure. At this point, I'm getting the squid so I can go back in. I am baiting the Venom to hang out over here, and as I bait him as far back as possible, I dash and I double dash again towards the health pack in order to get the health. He is now farther away from his team. I have health and I cloak. I was walking one direction, and the moment I cloaked, I walked the other way. This was to bait him to get him to think that I was going that way. And the moment that my cloak runs out, I stand perfectly still because you see how Venom's looking around there? He's like wondering where I was. If he heard my footsteps, he would have known where I was. So that was me just being like, okay, I'm not I'm just going to completely stand still and wait for my team to fully regroup. And now that we are, I'm going to re-engage with my team. I know I have my ult, so I'm just going to clean up the squids, and then I will re-engage in a minute when my team engages, but we mess up and the we didn't touch. Mistake. Here, Namor tries to ego duel me without his squids. He's a pretty easy cleanup. Free easy kill. Namor is really good at like flanking and getting sudden picks and sudden surprise hits, but he's not great at one-to-one duels, especially if he doesn't have squids set up. So here I am, I'm just waiting, right? I'm giving up this space, I'm letting them have it. Learn from my lesson, don't dash in, just cloak, go invis, and immediately uncloak or ult on their heads. They got low, it got close, it didn't work. I immediately, the moment I sense danger, I get out. I don't wait until I'm low. I know that there's danger now, and I leave. And this is where I get kind of messed up. So Venom at this point is also trying to deal with me because of the fact that I've been a pain in the ass. So there, it's too dangerous, and I get out of there. And you can see also how I'm not relying on my supports to heal me and heal bot me all the time. I am playing around what my abilities can do and what I can do with that positioning and playing around the health packs a lot. There are times when I need healing and I step back to my team, I stand still, I stand behind cover, I get health, I go back in. Otherwise, if I'm taking pressure, if I'm taking heals away from or if I need heals, I'm taking them away from my tank or somebody else who might need them. I can survive by giving up space temporarily, grabbing a health pack, and then re-engaging. But here I see our team just got wiped. Like, they did a good job there. And now I am on the back. They are seeing me there, and they want to engage on me because they know I've been harassing them in the backline this whole time. And once again, the knowledge of the health packs, I am rotating around. I am constantly just shifting my focus. And they are chasing me, right? Venom is still chasing me, which means he's not at the front line. He's not dealing with everyone else. So Strange is solo tanking at the front. Here's me engaging again. I take too much damage, and I end up dying for it. This was bad. However, luckily my team ends up securing 2 kills in this exact moment. Although I died, my team was able to create an opportunity in which to capitalize on that space I created by having 3 people chase me to secure kills. If I have 3 people chasing me and I survive successfully and they turn around, that means it's 1 for 3, which means at the other side, it's 5v3 for everyone else on the point, which makes it for easy cleanup. But just because this happened to work out this time doesn't necessarily mean that the distraction you create and die for isn't always going to be beneficial. There are going to be times where you might be distracting 3 people, but your team is not in a position or have the health to capitalize on the distraction you've made. So this death, although it was my only one this game, was still one was trying to avoid. I didn't want to die here, and I didn't. Even though it came out worth it in the end, it doesn't always. So always prioritize trying to stay alive, trying to stay alive, but also maximize your uptime in terms of how much you're being effective in terms of a distraction or killing or pulling resources.
You're mine. Here come the bad guys.
So here we go. Venom engages. Neymar is wildly out of position, right? I am coming out from spawn. So when you know people are coming out from spawn, you have to know which direction they're coming from. And him playing in this position is really, really bad because he has no cover. He's playing around the payload for other people, but now I'm coming out of spawn and I have free LOS on him, which makes him an easy target to burst. So now I'm causing pressure and I push the two squishy heroes back. But because of the fact that we're in a six deck here and we're well coordinated, we see Venom and we hear he's got no E. He's wildly out of position. And once again, target priority. Who you're targeting isn't necessarily the squishies. It shifts because, five people focusing a single tank, five or six people focusing a single tank is going to drop a tank really, really fast in comparison to everybody just split off doing their own thing. Even though he's a tank, he's about to get bursted because of the fact that he doesn't have people there to back him up. And why? Because I created an opening and a threat by pushing the squishy heroes back and executing one of them. I cloak in, I see an opportunity. And here I am applying pressure. I'm applying pressure and watch. I need health and I can see from my perspective that uh Ritsu here, Arkaritsu here, the cloak and dagger. This if I can see her here, which means that I can be within her LOS, but I don't want to be in a position in which she has to walk forward to heal me. Strange is up here controlling this space. I'm standing still here just below the top of this step. So that way I know that they can't really see me and I have a good safe cover in this position. But I stand perfectly still as I mash the I need healing button. And you can see I get healed to full. When people complain, where are my heals? Where are my heals? Where are my heals? Find a safe position, stand still, mash I need healing, and you will eventually get healed. Usually, 99% of the time. But here, once again, I'm controlling space. I get an execute because they don't realize I'm there. I'm off angling. I'm creating pressure on all sides. Here I'm distracting. I am waiting to engage. I know they have ults, so I'm just letting them use them. I back up knowing the health pack is there, so I can grab the health pack while I'm shooting Venom. I can force his E early just on me alone. And in order to make sure I know I stay alive, I ult a little bit early. And I apply that pressure to stay alive, and we just get quick executes as I waited as long as I could to before I could ult. Now, mind you, look, it's going into overtime, and Venom's not on the point. But he was alive. Why wasn't he on the point? Because he was going to die anyway if he stayed there. He knew he had to back up, give up that space, and try and get healed before trying to re-engage again. Otherwise, he was going to die, right?
1, 2, 3.
Playing this game from a macro level is to understand that push and pull dynamic. And that push and pull I talk about is sort of like this tug of war battle that you have all game. And what you're trying to do is have as much of that pressure, as much of that pressure as you can put upon the enemy team where you're forcing them into positions that are awkward, that are difficult to deal with. And if you're dead, you cannot force people into those positions. So you do your best to try and avoid dying. You take these duels and you try to attack people and you try to create openings for your team. But an opening for your team doesn't just mean a kill. An opening for your team could be taking a high angle position and splitting the team in two. It could be an alt that separates them. There are different things in which you want to manage how you do this or how you play, where it's not just about, oh, get your kills and and then you win the game. there are so many other things you can do from that macro understanding and strategizing to help you win games easier. Because once again, as I've said multiple times before, I'm not great at aim and mechanical skill. I definitely am starting like I definitely hit some limits at some times. And there are certain people that I can tell are just better than me mechanically. But I like to strategize in this way and understand it was like, okay, how can I carry this game from just like doing tricky things and taking weird angling positions or making their lives difficult? Prioritizing who I kill first. Like if there's a rocket, I can either take down the res station or I can just kill him to make sure it's not up and or spawn camping. Like there are different tricks that you can do in order to make your games easier to win that doesn't just require just having really good aim. Uh, I have one more video here, which is the top down video from a bird's eye view of like the first point. And I just want to run through it real quick from this point of view so you can kind of get a better understanding, especially because this is a macro conversation. I think it's good to look at it from the top down. So here you can see immediately all of them are sort of grouped up in this area, right? Uh, I'm pushing that Hanzo out. And as you can see that as people get low health, they start to back up. Like here, our team starts to get lower health. So they start to back up. They give up space. And you see how like as we give up space, they move back forward again. Here's us giving up this space. All of us are low. We can't contest it. So we are getting pushed out, right? So here we get healed back up. We had lost one due to a Hawkeye arrow. And right here, as I'm circling, it's Magneto is holding this payload here. Where he's not able to push it. But now, as Cloak is coming back out, and we're a full six. This is why, by the way, when I say it's a numbers game, look at how in a 6v6 versus a 6v5, the game dynamic changes. Our Cloak and Dagger got killed early, right? The pressure the ability to apply pressure and push the objective is severely limited by that one person going down. So because of it, that payload isn't moving at all. And the moment that Cloak and Dagger rejoins the fight and starts healing people up and we start controlling these angles, look now how things are about to change. Magic is on the flank, Magneto is on the flank. Bucky is now focusing his attention on our Doctor Strange for some reason. And as they start to get low health and they use their abilities and resources to apply that pressure, they back out to rejoin their supports. But I go back in now with my resources and I start applying pressure. Look at this pincer attack that we have going on here. They now no longer feel comfortable or safe in this position. They are now completely surrounded and they realize that this is a dangerous place to be in. So they start to back out to give up some of that pressure as they're getting pressured from all angles. And what happened here and what they made a mistake on is that there was no one controlling other angles. They were doing what I call as rock'em sock'em robots, which is they thought both teams were just going to like keep hitting each other with as much damage as possible and see who won. And in this instance, with a Hawkeye Bucky, they win. But with Magic and me on the flank controlling different angles, it made it very, very scary for them. And here, they are controlling trying to control the payload as they're all looking forward. You can see these arrows are where they're headed and where they're pointing. Look at me and Magic. We are facing directly at their back line. Our supports are hanging out behind cover, helping our tanks. And in this position, you will see us engage on their back line simultaneously. Now they live, but they pulled out all their resources they could in order to try and survive. But here's me still creating that pressure. And as I create that pressure, we just force them back. And now, because they have less resources and they had less health, they're forced back into this corner position. And as we rotate around, here's me and Magic again as we're controlling the high ground and we're controlling this off angling here. We are now going to rotate. You see how like as we're applying pressure, the entire team is rotating back as they don't have the resources, they don't have the threat of death alone is keeping them back. But now me and Magic are about to flank their backline simultaneously again. And look at the direction we're creating. Remember that pincer attack that we had earlier? We're doing it again, but it's a coordinated dive and a coordinated effort. Our supports are backing up our tanks. Our tanks are pulling attention and pulling focus, and they're helping push the payload. They are pushing back the enemy team. The enemy team is feeling stressed out because there's two flankers that are constantly harassing them. And here's us on the backside getting uh as we collapse in on them and take them out. We use our ultimates, we use our abilities, and we chase them down and get our kills. And then we regroup back on the point and we take the objective. But you see how, from a macro perspective, it's not just about like, uh, you know, trying to secure kills or going for a big play or something like that. Sometimes purely through how you position alone and the threat of imminent death is enough to make people feel uneasy and get them to back up. But just the same as you can get enemies to back up, you need to back up as well. You saw me multiple times take damage and realize my engagement wasn't going to work out. And I backed away, got to a safe spot, rejoined with my team, and let them heal me in order to get that alt charge up. Uh, that is super beneficial, and it's so much easier, especially because of the fact that like supports supports lots of times need to reload at times. And what I've seen is even in higher elo games like these, uh, there are tanks and people who just keep tanking damage and damage and damage. And at some point, the moment I reload is the moment that they drop. If you're taking too much damage, take a breather, stand behind uh, cover, wait a second, let me heal you, and then go back out. It's okay to give up some space temporarily if you think you can get it back in a minute or a second or two, I mean. So don't feel like you always need to be constantly applying pressure or not giving up space. Sometimes you have to give up space. And another thing that people do that I should mention is that you can give up space. And if you hop on the objective at the very last second, but every second counts when you're trying to regroup, like let's say, it's like a capture point, or if it's even this first payload, it's pushed up to 99%, but your team got wiped and you're still waiting for people to come out. Don't come out one at a time, trickling one after another. Wait until it's at like 99%, about to be 99%, and then jump on. If you win the fight at 99%, you've still won the fight and held the objective. But if you hop on when it's like 60% or 75% and then you die, but then the next person hops on and they die, it creates that staggering thing I was talking about the other video where you just can't, you're just trickling in one at a time and you're not able to fully regroup at six. Hop on objectives at the very last second in order to contest them if it means you get your team back together quicker and more safely. Because at the end of the day, this is all about objectives. The game is built around objectives. You take the objectives through that space and you create through that space you can find openings in which to kill someone, but it is not as simple as just, oh, get kills, win game. So yeah, I hope that this video was helpful. I know that this macro understanding of the game is a little bit more complex and it's a little bit harder to understand when you're kind of just focused on like just trying to get better at the mechanical side of things. But the macro side of things makes playing the game a lot easier and a lot more simple and a lot less stressful, in my opinion, because then you know where you should be going and what you should be doing. And it also helps you understand, better, how to play all heroes. I play Psylocke, so I'm extremely mobile at getting to different positions quickly. But just the same as playing if you were to play like Hela or Punisher or somebody who is a little bit more non-mobile like Namor or something, knowing where your threats are and how quickly they can close that gap and what kind of pressure they can apply to you to push you out of that space, uh, you're constantly sort of rotating around where you need to be and where's the best place you can be at that moment. You try to create those off angles, those pincer attacks to pull attention and pull resources, but you also do so in the safest way possible. This is why DPS is like a high risk sort of role, is because you're very squishy, but you also need to take those off angles uh, in order to win games. But it also means that you have the highest chance of death, and people are going to want to take that duel with you. Uh, but it's super crucial to help you win games, and winning games easier than just playing Rock'em Sock'em Robots. So yeah, hopefully this has helped. Yeah, and this is like been beneficial because this is one of those things that I see a lot of players make a mistake on because they're always focused on like the killing side of things. But truth is, y- understanding this aspect and understanding the point of being about objectives um, makes the game a lot less stressful, a lot easier, and it's also understanding that uh, because it's about objectives, sometimes you just lose momentum and it's very easy to feel like your team is just getting diffed, but your team isn't getting diffed. It's just literally you guys just never took the moments to like fully regroup as six and control those angles. And the moment that you do, sometimes you can turn those games back around. So even though you can feel it's like sometimes your games are just unbalanced, take a minute to just try and switch things up, control space differently. I've always had games where they seem like losses and you come back and you manage to pull out a win. Um, so yeah, don't give up hope. Remember the macro side of things and keep trying. Anyway, hopefully this one was helpful and not too confusing. I'll on if I think of anything else, I'll keep trying to make more videos. So, yeah, hope you enjoyed.